Good morning, everyone. EagleX from ATX EagleX Gaming here today, and I have with you for the first time in a while a market watch. Just real quickly, because I am getting back in the swing of things, I just want to say real quickly, if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, it really helps show the support. Like, comment, subscribing really pushes me and be motivated to make more of this type of content. So if you guys enjoy it, don't forget to drop that on the channel. But let's start off things here, as I always like doing with the sealed product for Digimon. You can kind of see what sets are hot, what cards are trending based off of these products. The first thing you kind of see, just like, as always we expect, the oldest stuff is typically the expensive stuff, where we have 1.0. BT9 not too far behind with all the staple cards and the ex-antes we have. And then Double Diamond for the Ghost Omni Chase, nothing new here. But then we have just our pre-sale boxes. Don't have to worry about ordering them yet, but when they come around, they'll be a bit closer probably to $80 to $90 range. But I don't think there's really a whole lot noteworthy when we look over at booster boxes as a whole. Cheap boxes are cheap because, well, EX1's a kind of bad box, and there's a lot of things I would rather pick up than the EX1 box. But for best value at the moment, you're probably looking over at some of your newer boxes, to be honest, just because you have a lot more staples and playable cards that are easier to move if you're looking at just buying something to rip. But moving on to a new section I want to add to it, is the bulk corner. These are cards, as you can see, are blinding right. It's almost a $3 rare. That if you're just like looking through your bulk box, you would have multiple copies of this card and not realize like it's been going up in price. It's been trending up. Mervicross was the first deck in a while that really required high quantities of this card at 4 copies, and we can see this is trending all the way up. People have been running out of copies, and we're looking at almost a $3 rare here. So if you have Blinding Rays, not a bad time to pick them up and list them online, or to put them in your trade binder, because people are probably looking for them now and they have good value to trade. Next thing I want to mention, Doraemon from Next Adventure. So this is a card that was originally meant for the Alphamon archetype, but with Machine Dramon seeing more and more play and doing more the evolving a single stack and tucking sources gameplay, it's become the staple egg you see in the deck. So it's not surprised that the eggs of $1 are uncommon, and not to mention like we're getting BT13 around the corner sooner than later, and this is probably your go-to egg still, and just to draw a card for your normal gameplay, it's not bad to have. And if you look at the alt art we have here, the campaign alt art, it's a $4 or $5 alt art. Not bad, and honestly, if you guys don't have copies, this is a card I would consider picking up a playset of, because first of all, this is one of my favorite arts from the series here, but also it has lots of good longevity, it has lots of promise, because it's just a generic tucking effect, which Machine Dramon has continuously gotten support throughout time, so I wouldn't be surprised if Machine Dramon still uses this egg as long as the Chaos Dramon lines keep tucking cards underneath. And moving on to our last bulk card of the bulk corner is the Davis Ken Dual Tamer from New Awakening. If you guys remember when Imperial from the starter deck used this with HPD to restand after going into Dragon mode for free, basically making HPD have no real costs, this card sees more than just play there. It sees play in the new Imperial deck as well. So fetching just around a $3 rare price tag is not bad for a card that it was honestly cheap for the longest time. Like, we're looking here, like it wasn't even $1 for months, and just because we have relevant Imperial support, this card has gone up quite a bit in price. But that's everything with the bulk corner. Next thing I want to move on to is some of our more modern stuff, or BT12 stuff. And if you guys have seen my market watches before, you'll be used to seeing me use the Japan prices and deck lists to kind of help figure out where prices should land for cards. In particular right now, I want to focus on the alt arts and the SRs of the set. When I look at prices of Japanese or JPN cards, I just simply divide it by 100. So basically, we're looking at an $80 card here, we're looking at a $40 card here. And the reason I do that is just for ease of conversion, and you can ballpark roughly what these numbers should be. But the reason I want to bring this up is we see Shine Gray is at the $80-ish range in Japan right now. And when you bring this over to America, you see it's sitting around that $50 range. Big difference is they have the full Shine Gray line, where BT13, it's really at full power with the Marcus Daemons. So of course I would expect that to be a bit more pricey, just because it is more playable at the time for them. But it's not sold out, so $80 is a bit higher than what it should be. But then if we look at cards like Quartzmon, we see it's like sold out the $40 price tag here. And we look over here, we see Quartzmon Alt-Art sitting around $26. I'll be honest, this is a card that has great longevity in the game. It is one of the best generic green level 7s we've had in quite a while. And honestly, green doesn't get great boss monsters. So having this be like an endgame finisher or a way to save you a turn potentially, it's a great card that I would honestly look at picking up alt-arts of if you don't have any yet yourselves. I know for me, I'm finally looking at getting my alt copies of this card. I think now's a great time to buy them. Even though they may not go in the deck directly right now, in the long run, it's a great card. And that's kind of why we see the translation though. Like, we looked at the alts and we see like there's a bit of a difference in Japan right now. But if we look over at the regular art copies, we can see that Shine Gray, roughly a $20 card in Japan. It's not sold out, so it's a bit overpriced, but they're trying to stay in stock. They're $9 here, and they've been climbing pretty well because people are getting ready for that BT13. I know we have EX4 around the corner first, but honestly, this card will see lots of play in high quantities, so I'm not going to be surprised if it starts rising up to match that price point they have there in Japan, unless it gets hit on a ban list. That's like the one thing I can see tanking the price of the card, but we just had a ban list fairly recently, so I'd be surprised if we got anything soon. And then Quartzmon's the other card I was kind of just talking about. Like, the alt-art, it's a good price, but I think when you look at the regular art, it's still a good generic card. It's going to see lots of play. So when we're looking at this card and it's roughly $8 right now, I'm not shy if I pick it up in a trade. And I honestly, if you don't own your copies, I wouldn't feel bad about buying copies at that price, just because I feel like they are a fair buy-in for what the card does in Hunters and Bloomlord. Even in Grandest with the nerf to Grand Kuwaga, it's still playable. But the one last card I really want to talk about here in BT12 is Wargreymon. Raid Wargrey is still a great card. It is a very aggressive card in Japan. And where is it over here? Oh yeah, it's sold out at $13 give take in Japan. This card will see play still. So if you don't have copies, don't be afraid to pick them up. Even though it may not be overperforming here in this format, I don't think it's a bad card to pick up for the time being. Especially with that price gap, it's kind of concerning for me. And I believe it is one of the best performing decks in Japan right now as well. But moving on to our next stuff, talking about BT12. This is a set that a lot of people did not like how it was broken down. If you looked at the rares, it was awkwardly distributed, and there's lots of cards that maintain good value in this set as well. So if we go ahead and take a look here, one card that we can start looking at, it's like some of the chase cards, I should say. Golden Aste, Machine Dramon, and Old Force. I talk a lot about how I like using Japan pricing for cards. So if we go over to our BT11, now that we've had a chance to see the cards actually settle, we see that Machine Dramon settling around the 120 price, which I don't think is a big surprise. It makes sense for the playability it has. The Mastemon settling around 250 right now. It's sold out in Japan, so if you level out the 200 sold out to the 250 available, it kind of pans out. Then the Old Force being available at the 70-ish price, and we see its market price is around 70-ish. We probably have a damaged copy if I had to guess. Oh no, it's just actually tanking real hard at $50, which checks out. It's not playable. It's not a great card. Like, it won really well in the Japan market. But in terms of other cards here, that is a lot of stuff I'm really interested in when it comes to the high-end cards. But talking about BT11, I mentioned that the rares had awkward pull rates. So if you've ever had a chance to look at these rares, you have $4 Metal Grays, you have almost $4 Angelomons, the Tri-Tamer, Hades Force, even Analog Man and Lady Wmon and Yuya, they're all around that $2 rare point, just because those pull rates were atrocious in this set. So if you guys are looking at investments, these aren't bad cards to look at for long-term investments in the game. especially if they're playable. The blue flare cards, the Tyrannomon cards, the Mastamon cards, the Greymon cards, like, they're very generic support that can be played in the future. Even the Machineron Analog Man, I consider that a worthwhile investment. I don't think it's anything crazy in Japan because they had the normal ratios for these boxes. So if we look at the rares, like, you have your $1 and $2 rares, $2 rares. It's like it's kind of panning out to be the same give take for us and what they have. But it's just really archetype defining cards. And the last thing about BT11 I want to talk about, Venmon is part of the Galactimon deck. There's nothing crazy about it besides the fact that you can run multiple copies. But for people that like max rarity, you want to get a foil copy. How do you gauge the price of a foil card? I just want to make sure I point this out. You got that green line on top, you got that blue line on bottom. The green line is that foil market price. So what a shiny copy of this card goes for, and it's been rising fast. Not only has it been rising fast, if you look at that sales history, you can look at what the foils have been selling at. $20, $6, $20, $20, $10. I'll be honest, I think 20 is a bit crazy for a foil copy of a not tier 1 deck card. But just because you need such high quantities, it is going to fetch a higher price. Looks like we should be able to filter out the foil ones here. English, 4 more copies. Oh, not 4 more copies. Anyways, not relevant. But looking for foil ones, they are hard to find right now. My guess is someone probably bought them out, which is why you can't filter on it. But nonetheless, you can get foil copies of cards in BT11. Just make sure you look at that foil market price. I think Wanyamons are the other really popular one. So if we look up Wanya, that's the baby blue tamer draw egg. See, the foil market's already $10 for this card. Yeah, we have foils available. There we go. So I'm not crazy. And the only available ones are like 15 bucks a piece. The foil ones have been selling well in general. So last foils we had sold are roughly 10 a piece. Yeah, 10 a piece, so keep an eye out on foils, especially if you're playable from the set. And the last thing to close out this market watch with is I like looking ahead at future decks in Japan. If you guys haven't seen the site, Digimon TCG Guide is a guide to Japan decks and kind of like their tier list where they aggregate all their data. And the first deck I want to pay attention to is the Gamamon deck from reprint set 1. In this set, there's an old promo card that if you guys don't have it, I think it's a great scoop right now. If you don't have your TP5 hero, this card is archetype defining. Getting that extra check is really good. And with the card being at $6 and being a weirdly disputed promo in TP5, definitely not a bad time to pick it up now. And the other deck I want to point out comes a little bit sooner than reprint 1, but BT13, Mirage Galgamon. This deck finally becomes fleshed out with all its support in BT13 to make the Royal Knight deck actually have a good punch. So if you don't have your Mirage Galgamons, the BT, I believe 11 one, yeah, Dimensional Phase BT11 one is the main boss monster. And we look at its price of roughly $4 for the regular, 15 to 20 for the alt. This is not a bad time to pick it up, especially if you like looking ahead in the game. That being said, guys, don't forget if you enjoy this content to like, comment, subscribe. That being said, take care and have a nice one.